In this final episode with my guest, Allan Misner from the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we talk about how both of us in our careers learn how to tailor fitness for everyone across the board, knowing that everyone is different. Not every workout should be the same. Not every diet should be for everyone. I talk about this all the time on my podcast, but it's great to hear someone else going through that with their career. So if you're interested in both of our thoughts on this, stay tuned. Before I begin, I'd just like to point out that I just started a new Facebook group for over 40 fitness hacks, and I'll put the link in my show notes if you're interested. This is just a way I can connect with my community and see if people have any other questions that they'd like to hear episodes on, hear what other like-minded individuals are doing over 40, things people are trying, successes, failures, and also just for motivation purposes. Once again, I'll have that link in the show notes. Let's continue on with the episode. This is part 3 of an interview I did with Allan Misner from the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. If you'd like to catch up, just go back a couple episodes. Well, Allan, let's move on to our next topic. You mentioned if knowing what you know now, if you could go back, you wouldn't be training everyone the same way. And I've gone through that over my years as a personal trainer, especially hitting 40. Not everything works for every single person. And I'd love to dive into that topic with you.
So when I came into this, I realized we didn't exist. Okay. There were no podcasts for people over 40, not a one. I'm so glad to see that there are more now because we need it. We need this help to get through all the junk. But there was no one doing this. There were no trainers focused on it. There were no online trainers that were focused in these areas with generalists. So I had to figure a lot of things out for myself. And when I got done and I'm like, okay, I just did this thing. I just lost 66 pounds of fat and I just did a Tough Mudder. And so I was feeling pretty good about myself. And to do all that, realize I didn't become a personal trainer to be a personal trainer. I became a personal trainer to train myself.
Yeah.
So my NASM certified personal trainer, my corrective exercise, fitness nutrition, functional aging specialist, all those things I did were for me. And I did have a conversation with a nutritionist. She recommended that I look into paleo. So I started doing paleo. And with paleo, I fell into ketosis. Didn't know what it was. Didn't even know it was a thing. I just noticed something was going on in my body. I was losing weight pretty quickly and my breath stunk and my pee stunk. And I'm like, okay, something's weird's going on. I'm not sure. I need to keep eating this way. And then I realized what was going on, exactly what was going on. So I did the research and said, okay, this is not dangerous at this point in my life. So I can do this and it's working. And so the 66 pounds I lost was because I was paleo and keto with bouts of intermittent fasting just accidentally happening. So a lot of the things that the guys will say, this is how you do it, they were just total flukes, total luck for me.
Yeah.
Okay. But I flash forward, I'm like, okay, if I can get people to eat low carb, they're going to lose weight. That's a true statement. But a lot of people can't eat low carb or won't eat low carb. I'm like, well, okay, if you lift heavy, it helps with your testosterone and you get strong and you gain muscle and that helps you burn fat faster. So you should definitely lift heavy, really heavy, massively heavy.
I was there too.
Okay. And so there was just all these concepts of how it worked for me. And then I started training this woman, actually my first online client. I did it for free. So I didn't charge her because again, I didn't have the confidence, but I wanted someone. So I brought her on. And one of the things she told me, she didn't like working out. That was one of the things she said. And I said, okay, we're not going to be working out like that. So we'll do other things. But one of the things she told me, she says, I can barely get to my car in the morning without getting winded. Now, is this a woman I need to throw in the gym and say, lift heavy?
Yeah,
No.
baby steps for sure.
Yeah. So what I told her was, I said, okay, if it's hard for you to walk to the car, then what I want you to do tomorrow is when you walk to the car, when you get there, I want you to do one lap around the car and then you can get in the car. And she did that for a few days and I checked in on her and I said, how's it going? She says, the first day it was really hard and it's getting easier. I said, okay, cool. Tomorrow you do 2 laps. And we progressed her. And after about 3 weeks, she could go for a nice walk around the neighborhood, not where she was before. So that was an entirely different approach to training that I had not considered. Not everybody's starting where I am and not everybody's going where I am. So we're all on our own journey. And if you're comparing yourself to others, either through what their progress is or where they are or how they look, this is not going to be a fun journey for you because guess what? There's someone who started better than you and they are a lot better than you right now. And there's some people who started off a lot worse than you. And maybe they're even better than you are right now.
Yeah.
We're all going to go at our own pace. And there's reasons that we do that. And so it got me to thinking about pace. And so what happens is a lot of times people will go in and think, I just want to get this done fast. Okay. And that my story of losing the weight and doing it in 8 months and everything. Well, the reality was you have three cars. So there's three cars. So think of one of them is that sports car. And this is when the road is straight. There's nothing between you and there. So no potholes, no speed bumps, no detours, no nothing. It's just a flat strip. And in that sports car, you can just haul it, just go. And it feels good, the acceleration and the go, and you're seeing results quickly and it's happening for you and it feels really good. But if you go too far, too long, too hard, you'll burn out. Okay. Plus, you may have to carry some stuff with you. Now, I was a big fan of college football when I lived in the States, and I would go tailgating every football game. Okay. So I couldn't have a sports car. It would have got me where I wanted to go a lot faster. But I couldn't take a sports car. I needed to carry our tailgate stuff. So I had this stuff in my a job, this, things that keep you busy. So people, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. Okay. Then you just have to get in a slower car. You need a pickup truck, something with utility. You've got speed bumps. You've got detours. You've got potholes. You don't want to be in the sports car right now. You want to be in the pickup truck. The pickup truck can't go as fast as the sports car, but it can still go pretty quick. Okay. And it can carry all your stuff.
Functional.
Okay. Yeah, it's functional. And that's the point. You're living your life and now you're in the truck, and that's good. Now, sometimes we have a whole lot more on our plate. We've got kids, we've got grandparents. Some kids, like we're taking care of our kids, we're still taking care of our parents. We're in a minivan, man.
I was thinking Volkswagen bus.
A little hippie on me, but you see how, okay, now I have all of these obligations. And so I have to see that I'm in a minivan. It's a safer, slower vehicle, and it has its purpose. It helps me do the things that I need to do in my life. But here's the cool thing. All of them are moving forward, just not at the same pace. And here's the really cool thing. You have keys to all three. So you can choose which vehicle you're in when. So there are times when you can do a sprint. You're like, okay, kids are going to see grandma next week for the break. I've got a week that I can go do all this batch cooking. I can make sure I'm starting and getting into my Pilates. I can pull up my Beachbody workout thing that I bought and never used. You can hire a coach and say, okay, I can work out 2 mornings a week, whatever it is. You can get started. You can start doing things. And yes, for where you are, you can be in the sports car, getting it done. And then when the kids get back, maybe you're back in the utility pickup truck, not moving as fast, but still getting things done. And then when things are going on, okay, the kids are home now. They didn't go see grandma. They're here. So getting my workouts in is going to be a little bit more difficult because 4-year-old's not going to be able to do what they need to do. I'm going to have to be, so I'm going to have to go a little bit slower. It's a home workout. I may eat a little bit more crap than I normally would because, well, kids, but you're going a little slower, but you're in the right vehicle for you at that phase of your life. And therefore you can look at that as the right progress for you. So there's no reason for you to get upset with a lack of progress when you are getting some progress.
Yeah.
So I like to say life got in the way. Why'd you, well, life got in the way. I got busy this work and this last minute assignment from my boss. Kids are sick from school and I couldn't, I'm working from home. I can't do all this stuff I would normally do. Well, life doesn't get in the way. Life is the way. I don't know how many times someone has told me, well, I'll call you back when I'm not so busy. That ain't never going to happen.
No, if you're doing your job in life, that's only going to pile
Yes.
on.
So life doesn't get in the way. Life is the way. You just have to pick one of those three vehicles, the one that makes the most sense today, and start moving forward at the pace that's right for you. And then, yes, if there's opportunities to go faster, you've got to get into the faster vehicle. You can't stay in the minivan when you don't need to be in the minivan. When you have those opportunities, take them. But for the most part, if you let life be the reason that you're shortening that life. So you have to make some grown-up decisions. Say, okay, what car am I in? Because you have all three keys. So I thought that there was one pace, one thing, one way, and it isn't. You can eat different ways and still take care of yourself. You can move certain ways and still be progressing your fitness. And by all means, you can be moving at different paces, but you're still getting it done for yourself. And in the end, that's who you're beholden to. Your fitness for task, all the reasons why, all of that rolls in together to basically say, if you're not doing it, you won't do it. But when you're ready and you're committed and you start doing it and you're consistent, you're going to move as fast as you can move. You're going to see all the progress that you need.
Yeah. I remember a story of one of my clients, very similar. Just make it to your car. She was struggling a little bit as well, and at least attempt to go drive to the gym. And I think for a full week, 3 days of her scheduled days, she would just make it to the gym, park. And I said, then that's all we need. Just park. You did it. You got dressed. You got to your car. You did everything. I'm not going to charge you until you get in that door. Don't worry. And then if you're not feeling it, you leave. And then the next day, try to do better. Maybe touch the door or come say hi to a couple people. And then that was it. And no problem. Baby stepped all the way. And just like you said, as long as you're making progress, then you're doing the right thing. And I think a lot of people don't check on their progress. Like that's why I'm big on journaling. If you're not putting down what you're doing, so you can go back a couple pages and be like, oh God, I could barely get out of bed and do one squat. It helps when you have a coach because we'll tell you how well you're doing. But I think it's part of the journey is to journal it as well. So I push that a lot.
Yeah, and that's good. I was talking to one client. He was like, man, I'm on this plateau and I just don't get it. And I says, no. I said, you're not on a plateau, you're on a ledge. So you've been climbing this mountain and now it's leveled out a bit. And I said, so you're not climbing, but if you don't get to the other side, you can't climb. So you're on the ledge. You can get to the top of the ledge and now you got to walk across the wall to get to the mountain part where the climbing happens. You're still progressing. It just doesn't feel like progress.
Yeah.
So we could quit and you can go back down the mountain if you want, or you can keep doing what you're doing and you're going to eventually get to the point where you're climbing again. But it's just that mindset of, okay, I'm not always going to see it in what I think is a meaningful way. And that's why, yes, if you're relying on the scale, you're not going to see it the way you want to see it because that's never going to be linear. If you're looking at your strength and saying, I should be able to bench press more, leg press more, whatever, it won't always be a straight shot. You'll increase a good bit. You'll seem to plateau. And if you keep at it, those little increments, little bitty increments of gain will add up and you'll get as strong as you need to get or want to get. But yeah, it's so many people will just struggle with the concept that they're not moving fast enough. And I'm just thrilled that they're progressing at all. And they just won't see that. They won't look back at it and say, look how far you've come. When you were sitting out in the parking lot and you didn't come in, and now look at you. We're getting a full 45-minute workout done and you're feeling great for the whole rest of the day. That in and of itself is a miracle.
Yeah.
It's magic. And you did that.
I agree. And the other part too is for the people who are climbing a little bit faster, they hit plateaus, hit some plateaus. There's a point where they don't think they're getting any more progress. And you're like, well, if we go back to your why, you wanted to do these things and you are crushing it, you can stay at that plateau if you want to as well. Like, what's your why that you need to keep going? So for some people, you got to kind of check back to see what they want to do in life. But maintenance, there's nothing wrong with maintenance if you're doing everything you want to do right now.
Right. Well, occasionally I do silly things to myself. I'll set goals that don't really have meaning and I'll still crush them. Don't care. But I had set this goal. I was going to do a Spartan. And I just set this goal for myself that I was like, okay, I'm getting stronger here. And I hired a strength coach, specifically a strength coach to help me just get really strong. Because I knew that the Spartan was going to require a lot more upper body strength than the Tough Mudder did. So I'm training for this thing and I hire him. I said, okay, I just want to get honking strong. He's like, okay, I love you already. And so we started training and I got stronger and stronger until I broke. Sitting there doing seated military press, overhead press with dumbbells. And I popped my shoulder. It's a rotator cuff, just tore it all the way through. I knew the incident happened. Now, after you come back, they're like, okay, well, it'd be about a year for you to come back to one. Well, 100% was me. Those dumbbells were 85 pounds each. Okay. And I was 51 years old. I'm squatting 380. I'm deadlifting like 425. And here I was pressing overhead press, 85-pound dumbbells. And I got to thinking to myself, well, do I need to go back to 100%? Because in a sense, all I meant was maybe the other shoulder would go then. So yeah, this one's fine at 100%. But then now maybe the damage I had done to the first one was happening to the other one. I have no way of knowing that without an MRI, and they're not going to let me just do an MRI to do. So I thought, okay, I don't need to be under that kind of weight again. I don't need those things. As a vanity metric is what it was. And it was an ego thing. And for men particularly, ego will beat us to death if we let it. So, there's a point where that's a part of my fit for task model is, okay, how much strength is enough? And I pretty much have decided that I pretty much won't do CrossFit style workouts anymore because I know the risk of injury is just too high and the recovery time after an injury is just too long. I broke a rib about 3 months ago, and I broke 2 ribs when I was 26, and I was back in the gym in 3 weeks. It didn't work out that way this time.
It's not fair.
Yeah. Well, it is fair. It is what it is. Like basically I could be in the Ferrari all the time back then. I can't right now. Sometimes I got baggage like a broken rib. But well, it cured me of one thing. I don't walk and text anymore.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So 2 lessons. Yeah. I don't need to be overhead pressing huge amounts of weight, and I don't need to text and walk. And I'm just glad no one was videotaping me. But it's a,
You
it was
never
an
know.
epic spill. It was an epic spill. So just realize that all of this is in your control. You're the decision maker. You're the boss of you. And if you just take some of the things that you learned today and just start applying them, and don't be afraid to fail, because you just learn from that. And those strategies and tactics as a self-managed person with self-efficacy will just build you up to be more consistent and not mess up as much. And then you'll get better. And then eventually your identity will change because you'll feel better, look better, move better, be better. And you'll be somebody that wants to continue to be that person. And yes, if that means maintenance, then that's where you are. Now, you're still fighting sarcopenia and osteopenia. So aging curve is still there. So maintenance still means growth.
Yeah.
Just doesn't necessarily mean growth from that point. It means restricting the decline that would have happened otherwise.
Yeah. You're getting pushed down the stairs. You just got to keep making back up to the plateau.
Yeah, fight those guys, man. Don't let them push you down the stairs. That's just your aging curve. You get to decide.
Yeah. Very well spoken. Well, Allan, appreciate you coming on my show and putting some of your wisdom out there. You've been in the game a lot longer than I have, so I loved hearing all these different topics and habit making skills, climbing the stairs. But if anyone is interested in getting in contact with you, what's the best way? You have your 40 plus fitness podcast. That's where I met you.
Yeah. The 40 Plus Fitness podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. You're going to end up being episode 46. And so that'll be going live here in June. But I have the podcast, 40 Plus Fitness podcast. I wrote the book called The Wellness Roadmap. So not everything I talked about from a structure perspective is in that book, but it was a lot of it. But as you go through it, you'll realize, oh yeah, Allan definitely came out strong-handed on the keto and lifting heavy weights. And so, yeah, that's who I was. It's not necessarily who I am. And I understand a lot more about coaching now than when I wrote that book in 2018. And then, yeah, if you want to consider working with me or learn more about my programs and what I do, you can go to 40plusfitness.com. That's 40PLUSFITNESS, and you can find me there.
Awesome. My audience knows I'll put all those links in my show notes so they can just click on it too. But yeah, thanks again for coming on my show, Allan. And real excited coming on yours and talking about all my fitness hacks, being new to the 40 crowd. So that's why I started my podcast. But I think one of the most important things is just the culture of everything we're doing in the fitness industry. There's just so much more information available to people than, like you said, back in your time, that you need to be engaged in this kind of stuff to really push yourself up these stairs. That's one of the things that I do, is just keep learning new things, educating myself, talking to people. Like you learn something from everything. So just don't give up.
And sometimes you have to unlearn things.
Absolutely. But you learn from your mistakes for sure.
Yes, you do. Fail forward.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming on my show, Allan. And
thank you, Brad. I'll talk to you soon.
For those of you out there that don't know what rebounding is or small trampolining, check out my episode 408, where my guest talks about rebounding to get a little bit more cardio in your weekly routine. I, for one, have always loved high incline walking on treadmills, but after seeing how much space I had left in my garage, it just wasn't going to happen. Since I've been using my rebounder, I've added 10,000 more steps per week on average. It feels amazing on my lower back, which I'm always careful of. So for any of you out there that want something different or have any type of injury, it's a fun and different way to get your cardio in. It's a space saver. Your family can play with it, and you'll get closer to the amount of steps you're trying to get in per week. I highly recommend checking out this rebounder from JumpSport. Check out the link in my show notes. Let's get some high intensity training back in your life and keep that motivation going. If you'd like a little bit of help checking out your diet and your current routine, I'd be happy to help. I always do a free 15-minute Zoom consultation for anyone, no strings attached, just to see if I can help point you in the right direction. So if you're interested, check out the show notes. The link is at the top.